Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about the hot topic of COVID vaccinations. Look, there's been a lot of discussion about this over the many months, and I've deliberately steered away from it while that debate's been going on, but it's become much clearer lately. And I think I can provide a bit of clarity and maybe some certainty around a few issues, particularly now that the Premier's made his statement around mandating vaccinations for authorised workers. So today I'm going to talk about, firstly, our vaccination rate, which we know what it is, and it's a very good, healthy rate. I'm going to talk about what that Premier's announcement around mandated for authorised workers means for us. And then I'm going to hand over to Jeff Pegler, who's our employee assistance provider, and he's going to give us a few ideas about maybe how we can deal with sort of the COVID fatigue that we're all dealing with. So start up, what is our current vaccination rate? We've circulated some information in the last couple of newsletters, and our current vaccination rate today is 92% of staff have indicated that they have had at least one vaccination, and 68% of staff have indicated they've had two. So that's a fantastic result. That is absolutely amazing. It's awesome. It's probably about 10% ahead of the state average. And of course it's voluntary, so there might be a few extras there that we're not even sure of, but it's a really healthy rate, and we're heading towards that 100%, I think sooner rather than later. So what does the Premier's announcement, which was a week or so ago, mean? It's now been mandated that authorised workers must be fully vaccinated by the 26th of November and have had at least one dose by the 15th of October. Well, I've already given you the statistics for East Gippsland Water, and we're well on track to achieve that, or to be so close that it doesn't really matter. But what does it mean? It's now no longer a choice, it's a requirement. And the authorised workers, which includes everybody at East Gippsland Water and all of our contractors, recognises the fact that we provide essential services to customers our communities cannot survive without reliable water and wastewater services. So we're now in that cohort. And that applies to everybody, including me, because we're all here to provide frontline services to customers and to support our teams that deliver those services. We have no other purpose. So there's no ifs, ands or buts. There's no staff that are authorised and some who aren't. We're all part of that. And we're all well on the way. I'm just going to touch base. Why is it important to be vaccinated? Well, apart from the fact that it's now mandated, I think the evidence is becoming clear that vaccination is very effective in keeping us all safe. That we are far less likely to experience the symptoms of COVID or in any serious sense to go into hospital or to, the really extreme cases, death and serious illness. That's becoming very clear. So it's the right thing to do. We have a responsibility to ourselves, to our own families, but to our co-workers and their families that we should all get vaccinated to make sure that when COVID arrives, it has a minimal effect here. And it is going to arrive. And that's the second reason why we need to be vaccinated. There's been in the news lately around, Geelong, Ballarat, more recently in the Latrobe area. They've had hotspots and gone into lockdown. It is coming. The COVID numbers announcing every day around the 1,500 mark. It's only a matter of time before it gets into East Gippsland. And in fact, it has arrived. This week, just a couple of days ago, we detected COVID fragments in the wastewater at Bensdale for the first time. Now, we've previously detected COVID fragments in Mallacoota and a couple of times at Lakes Entrance. And in both cases, it's come to nothing. There was no spike in cases and no issues. What it highlights is that COVID is here. It is ubiquitous. It's here all the time, whether that was someone passing through town or someone who lives here, it doesn't matter. If we go looking for COVID, we're going to find it in wastewater. And that's been the case in most towns across Victoria. So what does the Premier's announcement mean? Well, I've already said that authorised workers includes everybody at East Gippsland Water and contractors. So we now need to comply with that requirement. A question that might be asked is this temporary? Can you wait this out? Well, no, this is a permanent requirement. The advice I've had from DELP is that this is not temporary, this is a permanent legal obligation that's going to continue. So there's no question about this, it's not a matter of choice. So What does that mean if you haven't had your first dose? I've already given you the facts and figures, and we're up well over 90%, and that's rising. Today is Friday, and by the time you see this video on the Wednesday, when it goes out in the newsletter, I'm confident the numbers will even be a couple of percent higher. We're finding that pretty much every day someone's coming forward and saying they've had that second dose. So we're getting very close to the 100%. But what happens if you haven't had that first dose? Well, let's look at it sort of systematically. If you have a legitimate medical reason why you haven't been able to get vaccinated or you can't get vaccinated, and I'm not aware of anyone in that situation, I'm not aware of anyone who's saying they won't get vaccinated, for instance. But if you have a legitimate medical reason, then go and see your doctor. Get their advice, get the medical certificate, bring that and talk to your supervisor. And if you have a legitimate reason that you cannot be vaccinated, we will make reasonable adjustments to your role, and we'll give you a reasonable opportunity to go out and meet with your doctor. If you need to make that appointment, we'll give you that opportunity. But as I say, I'm not aware of anyone who's actually going to fall into that category, and nearly all of our staff are vaccinated anyway. What happens if maybe you've just been, a bit hesitant, you're still waiting for a booking because you're a bit slow to move? Well, talk to your supervisor. If you need a little bit more time, we will give you some reasonable opportunity to do that. And then the final category is, well, what if you just rather not? Well, if it's a matter of personal choice, it's actually no longer a personal choice. We have now the mandate. It's actually becoming a workplace health and safety obligation to your workmates. It's a legal requirement, and so again, I would suggest you go and meet your medical advisor to talk through that. Talk to your supervisor. But again, I'm not aware of anyone at this stage who's actually going to refuse. So I'm only going through those options because I'm sure the question's being asked, but the numbers are looking really healthy. We're fantastic. I'm sure by the time this video goes to air, we'll be up around the 95% mark and rising. So that's the key story here. We're well on track, and I think we're ahead of many organisations. So thank you for that. So finally, I just want to hand over before I hand over to Jeff Pegler, as usual, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me, or if you'd rather not contact me, talk to your supervisor or someone else you trust. And, ask those questions and we'll try and clarify as best we can. Now I'm going to hand over to Jeff Pegler. He's got some tips for us to help us, continue to work through COVID fatigue. Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, hi everyone. My name's Jeff Pegler, and most of you know me as the EAP provider at East Gippsland Water. It's my privilege to be having a chat with you today in Mental Health Week, just about some things we can do in these tough times to maybe help us be more resilient, and just to make some ways that we can actually get through these tough times. It's a privilege to actually be part of your October e-newsletter. Steve told me the theme was going to be somewhere centred around vaccines and some positive things about that. And some of you may have actually seen an article that I've circulated called Emotional Vaccines. So what I thought I'd do in these next couple of minutes is just fill in some of the gaps around that article and draw your attention to the three main components of it. As I said, it's Mental Health Week, and the article actually highlights mental health and contrasts it against mental illness as well. And in that mental health space, it actually fills that out with some other qualities that you might like to look at as it talks about mental health. The article actually begins like this, and I just want to read you a couple of sentences. If you're feeling uninspired, stagnant or joyless, you're not alone. A sense of languishing is one of the dominant emotions of 2021 as we navigate life in an ongoing pandemic with other rather horrific world events alongside. But although many people are struggling and these struggles cannot be ignored, the pandemic has also provided a chance to flourish, functioning well and feeling good, with a sense that life is meaningful and worthwhile despite these challenging circumstances. It goes on to mention the three components of emotional vaccine that can enhance our lives and well-being in these less than great circumstances. So I just want to list those three components of emotional vaccine and just fill them out a little bit. I'm not going to say what the article says, just sort of draw your attention to these three components. The first one they entitled Hold the End. It's a psychological practice that when you have two events or situations pressing in on you and closing in on your life that prevent you from moving forward, sometimes it's good to try and find the middle ground between those events. In our current circumstances, I'm sure each of you have experienced some of the things you'd really like to do, but you've been limited by the regulations that prevent you or say you have to do this instead. There's so many of those things. I want to do this, and this is all I'm allowed to do. Or if only I could do this, but this prevents me from doing that. So finding the middle ground, finding the best way between those two extremes is often a really helpful pathway, rather than just sitting in the dilemma of not being able to do that or having to do this. So I encourage you to read the article and think about ways in which you might be able to hold the end, might be able to live effectively in between the two extremes that we seem to be faced with today. The second thing is called proactive acceptance. Sorry for all these big terms and complicated things. Technically, it's called acceptance coping. And the techniques used in various other psychological or mental well-being practices. It's used in mindfulness, where you're encouraged to actually think of one good or positive event that's happened in your day and dwell on that and sort of expand that and live in that positive thing. Thankfulness is one of those positive things. If in your day you find something that you can be thankful for, it's great to spend a few extra moments being thankful in that space and maybe bringing it back into your life when things get tough or crash around you again in the day. So how about being proactive in some of these areas? I am thankful for, oh look, this is a good thing that happened to me today. Just try it a couple of times and see how it might be able to work for you in tough times, or even to celebrate the good times of your day-to-day life. And the final component is the vaccine of connectedness. Having a meaningful connection with those around you is what it emphasises. Sometimes I think we really want at this stage to have the big connections, the quantitative connections that we are all missing with extended family and other workmates and that. But while they are being prevented at times, let's concentrate on developing quality connections in the ways that we can with the people that we can. Quality connections over quantitative ones can sometimes win through and redevelop or further develop some really helpful relationships that do enhance our mental health and our general well-being. The article mentions that frequent positive emotions like joy and like hope and like achievement help people stay resilient, even thrive in times of crisis. So just want to leave you with those three, well maybe they're even challenges. Are you able to hold on to the end between the two extremes of things, the troubling things that we're dealing with at the moment? Find a really helpful middle pathway. Secondly, can you find a way of practicing positive acceptance, even of difficult situations, finding something in that difficult situation that you can work with or even be thankful for? And the third one, I suppose, is let's affirm and strengthen those relational connections that we have with people. Let's treasure them, maybe even expand them, but certainly value those relationships. You'll find the article on the EGW website, and I think Chelsea's probably already circulated it to you in any case. So can I just invite you to have a great week, and I trust that I'll be able to catch you in person one day really soon. Bye for now.